Hello, crypto, and welcome to today's episode of How Many Swaps Per Second Can We Do Today? So, I'm sure many of you saw the soak test I did over the weekend, which was pretty good, I think. Averaged around 400,000 swaps per second, and according to the dashboard, did 6 billion in about 5.5 hours. Pretty good. Turns out the dashboard was actually reporting the number wrong, and it did actually do all the 8 billion. So it actually did 8 billion swaps in 5.5 hours. And for those of you that don't believe me, I'll do another soak test over the weekend, and then you can all see that it was actually correct. So that was pretty good. Showed up some bugs, some minor things, some code hotspots, which I fixed, and that brings us to today, because I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit annoyed. I'm annoyed with seeing 400,000 swaps per second. Nobody seems to care about 400,000 swaps per second, because after the weekend, I'm sitting here patiently waiting for TikTok influencers, X influencers. I was waiting for Pomp to send me an email. I was waiting for Lark to send me an email, and even Greg, nothing. So I've come to the conclusion that 400,000 swaps a second just isn't enough to get the attention of all these crypto influencers. So today we're going to shoot for 500,000 swaps per second, or we're going to set something on fire, whichever happens first. So I've done a little shakedown with this earlier on, and it is possible to do, but I haven't quite got there. So I figured I'd do a live stream, and we'll push the numbers a little bit, and you all can see it in real time, or not, as the case may be. This may be the case, but I would expect at some point there is a number of swaps per second where they don't care about money anymore. So we'll keep upping the numbers, and at some point, perhaps one of them will get in touch. Anyway, so what have I got on screen? So I've got the same old configuration. I could cheat with this, right? I could just but I think that a 32 shard group network on the normal configuration of 4-core, 8 gigabyte RAM, SSD, I think that it can be done with a 32. So that's what we're going to try. And if we fail tonight, then yeah, fine. I'll throw some more shards at it, and off we go. And another reason I'm doing this is I'm going to plan to do another test with the community testing group tomorrow as well, because quite a few changes I've made over the past week have been on the back of the previous test that I did with them about a week ago as well, which went really well. But there was a few problems and stuff. A couple of the guys had some issues. So over the past week, I've fixed a bunch of stuff. So I'm also going to do another small community test tomorrow as well, all being well. But I finished this build tonight, so I figured that we'd give this a go, and it gives me something to do for a couple of hours before I go to bed. Makes all you guys happy, hopefully. So I've got same configuration network. There's a few less nodes in this one because the soak test over the weekend was an obscene amount of nodes. I begged, borrowed, and stole machines from everywhere that I could. So this one's about half the size. But it's fine, right? Let's just hit that 500,000 or bust. Let's go for that. So if anybody knows actually how to be able to share two screens on Restream, that'd be great, because then you could all see my console when I'm sending in all the spam commands and stuff. Still a bit of a noob with Restream, and I haven't actually figured out how to do it yet. So maybe I need to pay and get a premium version or something. I don't know. Anyway, so let's start sending in some of this spam. So it's going to take a couple of minutes to get going, because it has to create a bunch of pools. It has to create a bunch of accounts, to do swaps on the pools, and all that fun stuff. But it doesn't take too long, just a couple of minutes. And I've got 8 machines that are going to be doing these spam transactions, which is the same as the other day. And I apologize, spamming machines. I blamed you for being 2 billion short, but it actually wasn't you. It was the Grafana dashboard. So there we go. So I've got 8 to get through, and then you should start to see some activity as the first transaction goes through, which you can see it's completely clear, right? There's no transactions happened anywhere yet. And let's get in some of this spam. And this will start to climb up pretty quick as it's doing all the setup. And then once that's done, we will see an almost vertical orange bar, which is the swaps. And then we sit back, relax, and watch the fun or the fireworks, whichever comes first. And hopefully, finally hit that magic 500,000 swaps on a 32 shard group network. For those who don't know what shard groups are, the best way to think about them, without getting into too much detail, is validator sets, right? So you got a set of validators, and they're responsible for a portion of shards, hence called a shard group, because the Radix sharding architecture is pre-sharding. So we don't do dynamic sharding. There's a shard space that is predefined, and then the validators map into that shard space accordingly, depending on how many shards there are and how many groups, validator sets there are, how much load there is, etc., etc. And so really, they're just validator sets, but they're called shard groups because of that reason too. It's a little bit confusing, I know. I've been trying to think of a better name for a long time, but shard group just seems to be the best way to describe it. So I think it's probably going to end up staying. Unless anybody has a better name, drop it in the comments. If you have a good name, then I'll throw it up. So there you go. We can see the setup's done on most of. I've got one more machine to do, and we're at 63,000. And where's my last one? There it is. Now there is a chance that this gets pretty unstable because I'm pushing in a little bit more than I did earlier on because it didn't quite get there earlier. So it might be a little bit unstable because these pool validators are literally pegged at 100% CPU at these kind of loads, and the IO is saturated as well. And they've only got 8 gig of RAM too, so the memory use is high. So they are pretty much at their limit at these kind of loads, but I keep finding little places where I can squeeze another few percent or two, and little optimizations and a couple of dumb coding things, which you would expect after 3 years of hacking around with this network and research and all that kind of stuff. So there has been some fat finger bugs as well. But the code base is getting pretty clean now, which is good because the plan is to open source this before the big test that we do, so that people who are maybe and rightly skeptical can dig through the code and have a look if they have the brains to do that and the skill. And if not, then they can nominate somebody that they know that does have the skill to go through and let them know that this is all legitimate, which it is. It's doing everything that a network should be doing. The only thing it doesn't have is any tokens with any value. But aside from that, it's doing everything it needs to do from a consensus point of view. The execution, all the signatures, all the hashing, all the gossip, all the messages, the geo-distributed across various continents. This is a real deal. So there you go. We've already gone past 400. So we're at 450 nearly. There you go. 458. Let's count the numbers up and see how close we get. 468. I can already start to hear some CPUs crying. 480. I got about here earlier on. So I've put in about another 3% of spam. Maybe that just gets us over the line. 494. Oh, it's so close. Come on. 494, 496, and it's just teasing. It's just teasing. Come on. Shush, Telegram. 486. 498. Come on. You've got like 1,300 more to do. It's having a real tease. This is teasing. It's making us work for it. 498. Oh, mate, come on. It's almost there, right? Does that count? It's close enough to 500,000, surely, right? I mean, I know it's not quite 500. It'll do one. I have the faith. Come on. 506. There we go. Right, does everything explode now? Right, we did 500. It went above 500. See if it does it again. Right? See if it can stay consistent around these high 400s, low 500s. I'll be very happy, because I would imagine that this gets a bit unstable here. Finality is still good though, so that's a good sign. Usually before it explodes, finality starts to go up quite a bit, and then when finality starts to get to 8 to 10 seconds on the client side, that's when transactions start failing. So yeah, it's starting to get a little bit wobbly, but there you go, another 500 just. I think my calculations were correct. That 3% was maybe just perfecto. I'm just going to check on the some of the cloud dashboards to see how these poor machines are doing. Yeah, they're not going to be happy with me in about half an hour when this is finished. I'm going to have to give them a bit of a breather. Yes, now 500 TPS. 500,000. Thank you, OC. Timmy Turbo. Come on. Yes. Come on, indeed. Yeah, these stats, these poor machines, are not happy. But let's learn it for a bit, and see if they hold together. That'd be nice too. Cassandra's taking off. I hope it doesn't take off. Stay on the ground, number go up. That's what we want. Another 500. So you see here on this graph though, it's getting a little wobbly, right? Usually it's a little bit flatter than that. So yeah, just these kind of loads, right? They're just absolutely at their ultimate limit here. But this is good because we should be able to do 1 million with 64 validator sets. And the goal here is to get this as efficient as possible on these low-end machines so that we can have as minimum number of validator sets as possible, so that the validators that we do have on the day, we can have more per set, and therefore better decentralization, right? So we can hit the numbers, but depending on how much compute we have available on the day, then we may have to have smaller numbers of validators in each set, which some people may say, well, it's not really demonstrating decentralization. Which, yeah, if it's like a very low number, fine, I'll accept that criticism. But one of the nice things with the way that the Cassandra sharding model works is that everything is cross-shard. So if you say there's only 16 validators in each set, and every transaction is cross-shard transaction. So technically, each transaction is 32 validators, which, I mean, it's still not crazy, right? But it's more than EOS and some other protocols out there that claim to be decentralized. So anyway, so we're holding together. We've got a bit of a blip there in the finality. What did it get up to? About 4.5 seconds, but it seems to have settled down here. We've got a few failed coming through. 26 failed. I mean, we've done 200 million nearly already, which isn't terrible actually. 26, 200 million. The kind of load these things are seeing. I mean, Solana, are you watching? They run their validators at pretty high load apparently. And yes, I know that a lot of the failed transactions on Solana are because of slippage and MEV and all that stuff. So I'm just playing before anybody gets emotional. 666. We don't see that many pending transactions. That's a bad sign. So is anybody keeping track of how many times we've actually touched beyond 500 here? Because I'm talking to entertain. So I'm not really paying too much attention to what we're getting. This is a good solid high 400s, I'm going to say, right? And then we occasionally get a blip up to the high 490s, and then we flip over into the 500s now and then, and then we drop back in. This is interesting though. The commit time is very healthy, so I'm guessing that most of the load is coming from somewhere else. So like these numbers down here in the bottom left corner, these also give some interesting information about how the nodes are doing in terms of the consensus rounds, right? So the round time is about 280 at the moment, 260. The target is 250. And the phase, that's a phase latency. So each round has got multiple phases. And so that's a phase latency. And if that increases, that means that the phase has taken longer than it should have done. And then the commit is how long it actually is taking it to commit to disk. And so this is averaging about 20, 30 milliseconds, which is extremely healthy. So most of the limitation in terms of throughput here isn't in the consensus or the commit phase. It's probably in generating the proposals, gossip, creating certificates for the state changes and all that kind of stuff. Consensus is really healthy. So this is just an insane amount of load on small machines. So Black Sheep, this is still 32 shard groups. Changes over the past few days that a 32 shard group network could just about touch 500,000. And I got this build finished up a few hours ago. And I did a bit of a shakedown test earlier on and almost got there. And then I decided, you know what, screw it, let's just do a live stream because the potential is definitely here. So here we are. Needed another 100 million since I said 200 million, which was what, a few minutes ago. I mean, this is an insane amount of throughput, right? This is like almost unimaginable. You know, like think about that test of the day. So 8 billion people on the planet could all have made a swap in 6 hours, just under. And that means that everybody on Earth could make a swap every 4 hours perpetually, right? Everybody on the planet could make a swap 4 times a day. And this current Cassandra network in this current configuration would just about be fine. You know, a few might fail, right? If you get, you know, a glut of people every now and then, but generally the entire population of the planet could make a swap every 4 hours. And I did post some other examples of things on X a while ago, like things like you could track every shipping container that's currently at sea with a GPS location every 30 seconds or something, right? I think there's like 20 million shipping containers at sea at any moment in time. So supply chain, you could track every single container GPS location with 30-second granularity, which is crazy. This kind of throughput is insane. So yeah, I mean, I didn't intend for this to be very long. It was either going to be we'd do it or it would explode in a spectacular fashion and everybody'd be entertained either way. But this is stable enough. Everything's, you know, in the green, so to speak. Anybody got any questions that they want to throw up in the comments? I mean, let's let this run to 500 million and then we can give these poor machines a breather for the night. They've been ran hard today, real hard. I've been sitting here since 6:30 this morning because I wanted to get this build finished off today so I could do a test with the guys tomorrow. So they've been working hard today, testing all this stuff I've been doing. What am I looking for? I don't know what the hell I'm looking for here now. Everyone on the planet can make a swap every 4 hours. Yeah, that is a good slogan. I posted that somewhere, or maybe it was just in Telegram. Yeah, maybe you should put that on 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 X or something. Make a post tagline. Anyone else got any questions? No. Yes. Hey, if you, I'm seeing things here, so I don't know if these are both from YouTube or from X. Like I said, I'm still a complete restream noob. But it's cool to see people commenting and stuff. Pretty good. Aping in the speed of light. Indeed, Timmy Turbo. You would never run out of bandwidth to ape with this kind of throughput. So nearly 400 million. Oh yeah, I also put the commas in as well, if anybody noticed. That was causing people some headaches the other day when they were trying to read how many swaps had been done. So keep up the good work, my friend. I shall, as always. We'll be doing some more interesting stuff with Cassandra soon. I've got a few things lined up to do instead of just this old dashboard. Pegacorn is still making his as well, and that looks really sick. So I can't wait to get rid of this Grafana one because I'm not really a fan of Grafana. It's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit counterintuitive with some things, I think. So, but this is fine for this kind of stuff. But I would like a more comprehensive dashboard, and that's what Pegacorn is making. And then also working on reviving some of the old apps that everybody loved before I went to town, redoing most of Cassandra's execution environment. So a lot of that just wasn't compatible anymore. So the Radflix demo, the wallet. What else did we have? There's some games. Well, a new game as well. Actually, we've got a new game for you to play. It's a bit more interactive than Flappy Bird. It's like proper Web3. And it uses swaps as well, funnily enough. What a surprise. So I've got a swap game that is pretty cool. Oh yeah, and of course the social media Twitter clone as well. I need to finish that off too. Okay. Yes, it's just what I was talking about. How serendipitous that you send that message now. Yeah, so the idea is as well is that as we roll out these tests, there's stuff for people to do too, right? So there'll be some tokens. It won't be worth anything, of course, but there'll be some tokens. There'll be a wallet. There'll be some dApps, and you can play around. And we'll just build up a bit of a nice test network where people can come and play, and they can get a feel for what does this kind of responsiveness, what does this kind of throughput feel like, what kind of dApps. When we will do a community test close. Yes, it's getting closer. It's getting much, much, much closer. So I use the small group to just shake down things and catch bugs and things for robustness and fix those up. And obviously you want to have a bit of control over that group, so that's why it's quite small. But this code base now is getting, it's very stable, as we can see, right? So as that progresses, we get to a point which I'm pretty close to, where it's like, okay, let's pull the trigger on the big community test. Then there's a little bit of legwork to do to get all the third parties all aligned on a date, on a final date. Can everybody turn up that day? And make sure that schedules work so that we have that compute available and those people taking part for third party confirmations and stuff. And then you guys get a heads up about a week before so that you can join with your own compute, and off we go to the races, so to speak. Let's get Twitter back on Cassandra. Yes, Black Sheep. Let's do that indeed. Everyone in the world transacting every 4 hours and 20 million shipping container tracking examples are good fun talking points. Yeah, I think they are. Yeah. I spent a little bit of time researching the shipping container thing because I had the idea that was a good example, but then I thought, well, how many shipping containers are there at any one moment? And then I came across a number of like 20 million. I was like, there's no way there's 20 million shipping containers floating around on cargo ships at this very moment. And it turns out there is, approximately. Still around 3 seconds finality with 500,000 swaps. It's insane. It is pretty insane, right? Crazy. And it's still only 30 failed transactions. We've done over 500 million now in what? 20 minutes? If that. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Run Binance on it. Well, yeah. I mean, you could definitely fit all of Binance's trades with plenty of room to spare in this right now. So that's pretty cool. Where mainnet, come on, I'm not giving any dates out on mainnet. Still early, but not for long. Indeed. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed that short little demo. And we hit the 500,000 swaps per second target. Yippee to that. Finally achieved it. It was actually starting to annoy me that it was always just 400 and I couldn't get it anymore. But then here we are today after a week of grinding and a very useful soak test. It showed up some interesting hotspots. We now have 500,000 swaps a second on commodity hardware and a 32 shard group network. Pretty cool, I would say. So on that note, I'm going to go get a cup of tea and hit the hay because I'm knackered. And I'll see you all very soon. Hopefully tomorrow, actually, after the community testing group. We'll try and get some of those boys into a stream and we can have a chit chat like we did with Leo a couple weeks ago. But I'll get some more from it so we can have a proper good conversation after the test and do a bit of a retro or something. All right, guys. Ciao.